Good morning, boys. Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be going over all of the Season 2 Dragonflight dungeon reflects that you can possibly do, mostly bosses. But before we go into the clips and all of that, there is an add-on that's kind of nice to have in order to see timers and stuff and get a countdown, and that's bigwigs. So before every single clip in this video, when bigwigs is used, there will be a screenshot, and then you can go into here and then change whatever settings you need. And other than that, there is a really nice and useful weak aura, and it's called Spell Reflect Essentials. That just gives you a bar where you see when a spell is being targeted or casted on you. And yeah, it's going to be linked in the description. So yeah, let's go into the clips. Starting off strong here in Uldaman, we have the third boss, Sentinel Telandris. This boss has an ability which is casted randomly along your party. You just gotta pray that it gets hit on you whenever you have Spell Reflect up. Now, this boss has a fixed rotation. He always casts this ability 5 seconds into the fight, 15 seconds, and then 35 seconds if there is a stun in between of these two. So what you want to do is reflect this one, or at least try to, and then reflect this one. Reflect at 5 seconds and 35 seconds. Now after this, it's very random. It's either after every 10 seconds or every 15 seconds. It's random, guys. So this is what the ability looks like. Reflected earthen shards. It gives the boss a dot, which actually takes for a lot of damage, especially if you guys fuck up the stun here, then it's tripled. So yeah, good luck, boys, getting this reflect off. Right, still in Uldaman. We are now on the fourth boss, Emberon. On this here, you can reflect the Searing Clap. It gives a dot to the target, and it also neglects your damage taken, so it's a really big deflect. So yeah, keep that in mind next time you're doing Emberon. Alright, boys, so we're in the last boss in Uldaman. Now this isn't a damage reflect, it's a deflect of the time sync debuff. It's really helpful to your entire group, and you can get every single one if you pre-cast your Spell Reflect 4 seconds before you actually cast it. So, I don't do it in this clip here, but you should cast it when it's 4 seconds on this timer here in the middle. Then you can deflect every single one. Alright, moving on to Wholesome Infusion here. On the first boss, it's a really boring reflect, but it is a reflect. These orbs here, they cast Purifying Blast, and that's reflectable. See here? It's not a big reflect, but it's some damage at least, and can't reflect anything else here, so might as well, right? Right, boys, on the second boss of Wholesome Infusion, there's 2 ways you can play your reflect here on this boss. This is the first example. You just go YOLO on these tiny ones, press your reflect, and then you reflect the dot of one of these frogs here. Now that's one way you can use your reflect, or in a more effective way, you can actually reflect his gulp. You see here, he's about to cast his gulp. You can stand inside his gulp and not take any damage. And that way, the tank doesn't even need to go in. So there's 2 ways you can do this. Then again, none of them are really that useful, but it is something that can help your group if the tank has low survivability or something. Or you need to survive because you have a lot of aggro on these small frogs here. So yeah. Alright, boys. Now, on the third boss of Wholesome Infusion here, on the Kajin or something, you can actually reflect his Frost Shock ability. So whenever this goes down to 0, you taunt, reflect, then boom. 163k on a 13 fortified week. So this is a reflect you should do every single time you have reflect up. And yeah, there you go. Okay, boys, now it's the last reflect of Wholesome Infusion, but it's also the biggest one. This is a massive damage increase if you can actually pull this off, but it is a bit tricky. What you want to do here is taunt before the Squall Buffet. Now, why is this a bit dangerous? Because you gotta actually tank this Squall Buffet, because this isn't the cast you want to reflect. because if you reflect this one, you're dead. So you want to go into D-stance, pop in Rage Regen, and if it's a higher key, maybe ask for an external so you can actually survive this one. You also gotta be careful so you don't get knocked into one of these orbs here. So after Squall buff is casted on you, now is when you want to reflect. The Focus Deluge cast. Look at how much damage this does. I'm at 1.7 million damage done. 96k. Reflect. Now I'm all the way from 1.7 to 4.2. My DPS increased by 60k. So yeah, if you manage to pull this off, you really should. And yeah, boys. Alright, moving on to Neltharus Lair. There's a lot of big reflects here, but on the second boss, you want to reflect his Sundercast. This is a tank ability, so you gotta taunt and then reflect. So once this timer here goes down to 1 or 2, taunt, and then reflect his Sundercast. Now this does a lot of damage. It's 400k on a 15 fortified week, so this is a cast you probably want to do every single time you can. Now make sure that if you're in a pug, tell your pug tank to taunt back after the Sundercast, because if not, you'll die by melees. So yeah. Right, boys, moving on to the third boss in Neltharus Lair. You can reflect this Toxic Wretch ability here. Boom. It gives the boss a big debuff, or a dot, which takes for a lot of damage actually. So yeah. Okay, now moving on to the last boss in Neltharus Lair. This is actually a pretty big reflect as well. Now, after he casts his Landslide ability, it takes a second or two until he casts Molten Crash, and that's the ability you want to reflect. So after his Landslide cast, you taunt, and then Molten Crash. Boom. 500k in a 15 fortified. It's a big and pretty safe reflect if the tank just taunts after the Molten Crash goes through. So yeah, really big deflect or reflect. Right, boys, now moving on to Vortex Pinnacle. On the first boss area you can actually reflect his Lightning Bolt, so make sure you reflect that. Now this can be annoying because people will most likely kick this, but if it is cast on you, make sure to press reflect. Right, boys, now on the last boss of Vortex Pinnacle you can actually reflect his Chain Lightning. Now that's not a big surprise, right? But this is a splash ability, so you can actually reflect this cast by walking into someone else's Chain Lightning. You see, this Chain Lightning is casted on our priest. I simply reflect, walk in, and then boom. So you can reflect every single one, or every time you have a reflect up, pretty much. So yeah, make sure you do that. You don't take any damage, so why shouldn't you? Right, now moving on to Neltharus. This is the only reflect in this dungeon here, but it is a really simple one and a really good one. Whenever he casts his Grounding Spear ability, you can actually reflect for some damage. See, reflect, and boom, 183k. So yeah, make sure you reflect this cast because you're most likely going to have this ability on you every single time. So yeah, boys. Alright, so this is for my protection warriors out there. This Decayed Senses ability. I thought you would be able to taunt reflect this one because it's a really big deflect. But it's always focused on the tank, no matter what you do. You gotta be the one to initiate the fight and actually get this one off. So yeah, no matter what you do, you can't reflect this as a DPS, unfortunately. So what you actually gotta do is just reflect the Earth Bolt here. That's the only cast you can really do. Yep, reflected Earth Bolt. So save your reflect for the Earth Bolts here, and yeah, that's it for Brackenhide really. Right, boys, so this is the first mob reflect that I actually felt like is kinda useful to have in this video, because these contaminant apparatuses, they cast a beam as soon as you get into combat. So what you want to do is just cast a reflect as soon as you enter. This here, Boom, reflected Contaminant Beam. Now it doesn't do any damage, but it does a lot of damage to you, so that's why you want to reflect it. Now there are packs where there's like 3 of these guys, so if you're lucky you can actually reflect all of them. And that's really useful for your entire group and you, so you don't die. Alright boys, so thank you for watching guys. I hope you learned some new reflects, and I for sure didn't know most of these before making this video even. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time boys.